are going to start first with Miss Ashley. Ashley Benson is the head brewer of Arizona Wilderness. She spent 5 years in the industry doing everything from packaging technician, cellar person, and brewer before taking over as the leader of the Arizona Wilderness brew team. Prior to her brewing career, she spent nearly a decade in the marketing world before creating a change. She knows all too well the process of career changes, navigating the beer industry as a woman, and what it's like to work in a brewery both pregnant and as a mother. Let's give it up for Ashley.
Well, that was my whole speech. So moving on. No, hi, I'm Ashley. As mentioned, I am the head brewer at Arizona Wilderness Brewing Company. We've actually got a location not too far from here, so we're neighbors, as well as a brewery and pub in Gilbert. So I didn't start, my original career wasn't in brewing. I started, I kind of went the traditional route, you know, got good grades in high school, went to college, got a job in the marketing industry and was in it for about 10 years. I hated absolutely every second of it. So yeah, surprise, career change, plot twist. So yeah, in my spare time was home brewing, as a lot of people who end up in the beer industry are doing. And then also was just really, I don't know, throwing myself in the beer industry. I ended up going to SDSU, their Business of Craft Beer program, just doing night classes for fun, because I really needed something to just keep me going. So when I moved from San Diego to Arizona, the cost of living was drastically different, which allowed me to kind of take a look at my life and see what was making me happy and what wasn't, and gave me the opportunity to start over, which was absolutely amazing. So at 29 years old, I became a hostess at Arizona Wilderness Brewing Company, which was probably one of the most fun jobs I think I've had. And I did that for about 3 months with the intent of getting into the brewery. They weren't hiring at that time, but I really wanted to work there. I really liked their ethos and their messaging. So I was willing to put in the work, seating customers and bugging the brewers. I convinced them to let me help them process fruit and scrub the floors. And eventually I bugged them enough that they were like, okay, you can be hired on as a pack tech, which is the entry-level position in most breweries. So I've now spent the last 5 years working through all of the positions from pack tech to cellar person, to brewer, to lead brewer, and now head brewer. Right before I became head brewer, I did get pregnant, and had an incredible experience of working with Wilderness to figure out what that looks like in a brewery. It's really not common. There's actually a ton of breweries that have been under fire for mistreating women in the brewery because they either could potentially become pregnant or because they are pregnant or thinking of becoming pregnant. So it was a really big step for me to be able to go to my boss and tell them that I was pregnant. And we worked through a huge maternity leave overhaul, which ended up being for both birthing parents and non-birthing parents. And then when I went back, that's actually when I got promoted to head brewer. So not only did they welcome me back with open arms, but gave me a promotion. So that's what I've been doing now for the last 2 years. That's my backstory. So I wanted to give a couple tips on if you're interested in getting into the brewing industry, particularly if you are of a marginalized community, like women or people of color. And the first tip that I wanted to give is to ask for what you want. So I think that a lot of times as marginalized peoples, we don't ask for what we want because we're afraid to, and it's really vulnerable. But I had a manager when I was a hostess and I wasn't able to get back into the brewery as much as I wanted. This manager turned to me and said, well, why aren't you asking to get back there? You can't get what you don't ask for. I think I said that right. You don't get what you don't ask for. Yeah. And so I started asking and really bugging and telling them, like, this is why I'm here. And it worked. But if you don't ask for it and people don't know that's what you want and you just don't go after it, then you might not get it. My second tip is the imposter syndrome is real. Once you get into that position, you are 100% going to think that you don't belong, and to just try your best to ignore it. Just know that you do have a spot there and you do belong. And if someone gave you that job, it's for a reason. And that if you do the best job that you can do, then you are the right fit for it. And then my third tip is really for anyone getting into the industry is to do your research, know what you're getting into and know some of the job requirements and what brewing is. There are a lot of people who get into or want to get into brewing who aren't really as familiar as they might think and might think it's a cool, glamorous job until you're washing like your 30-second keg of the day and realize that it's actually really hard. But it also helps with that imposter syndrome. If you know your shit, sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse. There's a baby here. I have a 2-year-old, so I'm always in that like, where am I? Am I allowed to right now? Yeah, do your research and when you have a question, be willing to ask it, but also be willing to kind of figure it out on your own too. It's really important to just self-educate. Find the podcast, find the books, find all of the forums online are super helpful. So yeah, those are my 3 tips. I think I probably spent like 20 minutes saying that in front of my mirror, and that was like 5 minutes. Oh yes, any questions? Cool.
Okay, let's give it over, Ashley. So as she's building her career in here, obviously she's been, I'll get into the screen here. Thanks, Benny. As Ashley's building her career in beer, obviously she started from marketing, now is a head brewer. Does anybody have any questions about beer, brewing, getting into that, and kind of stepping into that position for Ashley? Yeah. And then just yeah.
Did you feel like you needed to separately read for that, or should you just learn by reading?
Oh yes, repeating the question. So the question was, do I feel like I need a separate degree for that, or did I just kind of learn by doing? I think it's a little bit of both. There are some new programs. I get targeted for, like, Cornell University is now doing a beer program. I think that those might be beneficial if you have the means. Not a lot of people have the means to especially getting into beer. It's not a high wage industry. So, I mean, taking out a bunch of student loans to get into brewing to me doesn't necessarily seem like the best call. I had the financial capability because of my marketing career to do the SDSU program, and it was a professional certificate program, so it was a lot less expensive. I just did it again for fun, but I don't think that was necessary. I think that anything that you really need to know in the brewing industry when you're first getting into it, you can learn either by doing or from tons and tons of books and resources. I mean, those programs are brand new in terms of like the length of beer history. So most people in the last couple decades haven't even gone to any of those programs. They didn't exist. But that being said, there are some programs that are really good, that have great information, and a lot of breweries like Wilderness do pay for continuing education when you come on. So I have gone through a lot of continuing ed that's been paid for by Wilderness. That's great. And then also the Pink Boots Society is really helpful. So as a member for them, you can apply for scholarships. And I actually won the scholarship for the Road to Cicerone program, which is like a $500 value, which was great because I can't really afford that now that I'm not in marketing. And yeah, so there's a lot of resources, but I don't think it's totally necessary.
Thank you.
She has one back there.
Okay, great.
So we've had a lot of conversations. We've had issues with females that are working in the brewery, and when you'll have people come in like vendors and whatnot that will want to sell things to you. Are you still experiencing that where they look at you and they're like, "Hey, I need to talk to your head brewer," and you're like, you're talking to her, kind of a deal, and do you find that that's becoming better and easier to, like, you're not getting that question as much as we used to, or do you still find that's a pretty prevailing question?
Maybe with all
At least I don't have to repeat it. Yeah, that's a really, really good question. It still happens from time to time. I think it's happening less to me because now I'm being posted a bit more on Arizona Wilderness's social media. So if there's a vendor who isn't doing their research and seeing who I am before coming in, then I won't even give them the time of day because they don't know our company. So how are they going to give us anything of value? But yeah, it still happens. There's another woman on my team, Wren, who very often delivery drivers will walk past her and be like, I've got to find someone who knows how to use the forklift. And she's like, I'm forklift certified, but cool, I didn't want to help you anyway. So yeah, it's still common, unfortunately. And I think we've also gotten a little bit better because we haven't been hesitant to kick people out of our brewery. So we've had vendors who have worked for us, like we're their customer, who have mistreated or said things that made people on our staff uncomfortable. And I'm very quick to be like, okay, you're never coming back here, and telling their boss that like, I don't care what you have to do. You have to replace this person when you come to work at my establishment, and holding them accountable. So I think just over the last few years, people have kind of figured out that we're a no bullshit zone. So it has gotten a little bit better, but it still happens.
Okay, we'll have questions at the end for the whole panel too. So if you have any other questions for Ashley, hold it to the end. Let's give it up for Ashley. Okay, next up we have Lauren Thoeny. She is an Arizona native and graphic designer based in Phoenix. She's fascinated by every facet of design, from tactile touch of letterpress printing to pixel perfect typography. I had to really say that in practice. I have been fortunate to work at Wren Brewing from the start, from their original logo to each illustrated can. As long as the industry grows and fluctuates and invents, there will always be new and exciting directions for her art. Let's give it up for Lauren. Yay!
I'm gonna set down my glass because I dropped it. Okay. Hi, I'm Lauren. I'm an Arizona native, and I've been a graphic designer for, gosh, I just did the math, 13 years. I graduated from ASU in 2009 with a visual communication degree. ASU. I've definitely gone through like a journey in design. I've worked at different firms. I worked at the Desert Botanical Gardens first I worked at a web design firm. I worked for a photo booth company, like tons of different outlets. I've been at Wren from the start. My husband is Preston Thoeny. He's one of the owners, and he's the original head brewer, but now I'd say he's the director of production because they have they have two different facilities. And so I had notes about this. But yeah, so I've been there since the start with their original logo in 2015. It was originally Westward, and then we switched it to Wren last minute. And can art didn't really start. I think we started with like bottles first. And at first we were going with like a black and white aesthetic, and it was like pretty mellow. And then we did the Beeline series, which is like one of my favorites. And it's like scenic routes of Arizona. So there's Beeline, there's Carefree, there's Lee's Ferry Highway. And that started off the illustrated cans. And then I was talking with Drew Poole, who's another owner, and he's in charge of all the marketing. And so we kind of like talk about where the can art's going to go before I start designing. And he had an idea for Dankworth series, which was one of their first like illustrated cans that they did. It's their IPAs, and he's like, let's do a pattern. And when he said that, I feel like the whole canvas of the can became like available, I guess. And then it just became kind of, we just went wild with the can art. So it's been a journey to see how it's gone. And like the pandemic definitely, I wouldn't say sounds terrible. And like it totally helped because everything switched over to packaging. Before I did like the crowlers, and then we'd release a beer maybe like once a month, I think. And then now it's like 2 or 3 beers a week. So it just went crazy. And like if you walk into the establishment, it's like kind of wild. when I go in, because I mean, I have 2 young kids, so I don't go all the time because I work from home. But when I walk in, it's just, I mean, the artwork is wallpapered on the wall, and it's like, whoa. They've definitely embraced it. Let's see here. I had a whole thing of stuff. Let's see here. Oh, I don't know what do you guys want to know about CANarchy? Okay, yeah. Yeah.
The one that did the marketing for Jacque.
Yes. So that was one of the original ones. So who hit John? So Preston is a big history buff. So, oh, this was another part of my little chapter of stuff that I was supposed to write. The artwork, it has like 2 directions. It either comes from Arizona history or it stems from like a funny anecdote or like something that happened during a collab. So that's like my favorite part about the cans is I'll talk with Drew and he'll be like, okay, here's the name. Because I don't come up with the names, they come up with them. The brewers and like staff. So he'll send me the name and then he'll be like, okay, here's the backstory. And that's like the fun part. And then it's my job to like harness that story and like illustrate it and make it something that you guys then share. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, Who Hit John is about drinking too much that you're then fighting yourself. Not, yeah. It's like punching yourself in the face kind of thing. Yes. So that was one of our original. Oh, that's great.
Jesus.
It's one of the original ones, and it just has a fifth one. Because I was just reading that one. I was going through my computer because I was like, oh, what were the original labels? And they were like, Who Hit John, Pie Thief, Olmec. I think Olmec they got a cease and desist for too. But that one's now Steps of Knowledge. It's coming out soon. Yeah. But yeah, they were originally like very simple and like they'd write like a blurb and it was like more poetic. And now it's a lot of artwork and it's great. They give me a lot of free reign, which is awesome. Like to have that trust to be able to, I don't know. It's kind of like a buzzkill when you send it in and then people pick apart your art and then you have to revisit it and go back and forth. And then, so to send it in once and then just get the response of, that's awesome. You're amazing. Looks great. Love it. And you're like, thanks. So it's been a great job. Yeah. Okay. Any questions?
What's your inspiration process? How do you get into?
So it'd be more, so I'll talk with Drew and hit, my inspiration process. So I'll talk with Drew and he'll tell me the background story. And then I'd say like my style of design, I like simple design, really like bold colors, like, I don't know, like whimsical, childish illustrations, I'd say. So, like we're doing one, it's Hippo Hopper that we were working on this week. And so I was actually looking at like a kid's book about the unhappy hippopotamus. And I was like, oh, these are great hippo. And Hippo Hopper is like this old piece of machinery that well, not old, it's a piece of machinery at the brewery that like self dumps and they wanted me to illustrate it. So I don't know. So it's just, I guess, looking at different inspiration, but then also tying it back into the story of the beer. Yeah. Any other questions?
Ooh, any other questions for Lauren? Yep, go ahead.
Not a super question, but a compliment. I love the art wall at Wren House. Do you have any say in that, or they just go and slap a sticker up?
No, it's all just, oh, thanks. It's all just the leftover labels from the beer run. So they usually order overs, and so then the extra ones, they just kind of tile it on there. Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, well, we all know that Lauren's artwork is absolutely stunning. So let's give it up one more time for Lauren.
Oh, okay. I feel like I talked a million times.
Okay. All right, up next, we have Chelsey Hauston. Chelsey is an Arizona content creator who focuses on restaurants, experiences, and travel. She started Let Them Eat This in 2019 and has accrued over 400,000 followers across multiple social media platforms. Yes, we can all pick our jaws up off the floor. Chelsey has an international business and creates content for over 20 restaurant concepts in the Valley. She left her 13-year career as a teacher to pursue social media and content creation full time. Let's give it up to Chelsey.
Yeah, I love it.
She's also 5 months pregnant, by the way.
So no beer for me.
All right, can you guys hear me? So I'm Chelsey Hauston from Boston. I moved here in 2008 in the original crash because I fell in love, but that guy turned out to be a jackass. So instead I stayed because why not? I started as a teacher. I have always loved working with children and I loved it so much, but I was very tired of being poor. And I was so poor that I took home the kids' leftover lunches. That's how poor I was. But I loved teaching and I had an amazing opportunity to go and pursue a master's in international business. I won a scholarship because I really love free things. And I decided why not? And it was the best decision I ever made. And it was the hardest thing I ever did. And then I started a page for my 2 pet pigs because I'm just very eccentric and weird. Take about social media and things like that is find your niche in what you're passionate about. It does not matter. You can choose anything. Like if you're big about psychology, if you like rocks, I mean, I watch rock TikToks. I have no idea why, but I do. But there is a niche for everyone out there. And I tell people social media is what you make it. If you want to turn it into a career, you can. If you want to turn it into a business, you can, or a hobby. It does not matter. I want to be partying with that guy over there. Because that's a party. But the biggest thing is to just kind of find your niche and find your calling. And there is nothing too weird on social media. I've seen people just post pictures of duck calls they do. There is a niche for it. But the biggest takeaway is social media is free. And I think that's the biggest mistake people make is they think they have to invest so much money. All you really need is a phone and sign up for social media. That is it. Start taking pictures, start taking videos. It does not matter if it looks like you are literally having a seizure and running into a field, because that's what your first videos may look like, and that's okay. But you know, you start taking video, you start compiling it, you start putting it out there, and you find your audience and you be vulnerable. Because people know if you're being authentic and real to yourself. I'm a little bit of a kooky person. I'm a spooky queen, so I love going to haunted stuff. My friends think I'm scary for it, but everybody loves a good haunted story. Am I right? So, you know, you find your niche, you run with it and go for it. And a big thing people mistake with social media is they're like, oh, you're just an influencer. You don't have a real job. But your entire job is marketing. Marketing is making people aware that you exist and that these places are here. And that's the biggest mistake people make, is that they disregard marketing and social media creators as just a joke, or we all look the same. But spoiler alert, we don't all look the same. Most people think to be an influencer, you have to be skinny and blonde, which is great. I would love that, but I am not that. I'm honestly chronically ill. And this is a job that I created for myself because I wanted something different. So I decided to go out of the box, record videos, and that's what I did. I never even edited a video in my life until 2020 during the pandemic, as everybody did. But the biggest thing that I can say is if you're going into video content creation, the biggest takeaway is just practice editing. You're telling a story. So it doesn't matter if it's a day in my life, if you're showing a video of a cool place to go or your hobby, you got to bring people in with the hook, line, and sinker. People want to be brought in the first 3 seconds in a video, and that's what takes people into the next level. And all you need is that best part. So I'll be like, what is the best part of this video? I put in the front and I say kind of like a funny thing with it. I mean, one time I was like, this is the best Chinese restaurant in Arizona. Spoiler alert, everyone told me I was wrong. There was 5% that agreed. But it didn't matter because people were talking and I was like, okay, what's your favorite place? I'll go there next. Like, people like to have conflict, and it's okay to have good conflict. And it's okay to start a discussion because social media is great. You get to meet all different walks of people, types of people, whether you like it or not. That's for sure. Another big takeaway is how people look at your work. The biggest mistake people make is they'll take their videos or their photos and they're like, oh, this is perfect. It doesn't need to be approved on. I send it to my friends. I send it to my husband. I was like, what'd you like? What'd you hate? And they'll be like, this was the best part. This sucked. Take it out. I'm like, got it. I thought the same. So it's nice to get that feedback because the only way you're going to grow is getting constructive feedback and improving on it. Nobody's perfect. And there's going to be times you make mistakes too. There's plenty of times I've said the wrong word. I've said the wrong city. I've said the wrong item, and that's okay too. Nobody's perfect. And a big thing on social media is you have to have a thick skin because people will say how they feel. And don't take it personally because a lot of these people you don't know, you're never going to know. And all they're doing is giving you more likes, more comments, and more money. Because guess what? That video is going to keep going and then you're going to get offered more gigs and things like that. So the sky is the limit. And yeah, have fun. Do what you love. Social media is fun. I know people turn into this big monster, especially with all the conflict going on right now, but social media is a positive place where you can tell your story and you don't have to be afraid to share who you are because that's what makes you different than everybody else. So that's my big takeaway and call to action is if you want to get into social media or content creation, just start. It does not matter. Consistency is everything. You're never going to run a marathon by taking a walk for 10 minutes. You're never going to do it. It's practice is key, just like anything else. So take pictures, go out, network with people because the more people you meet, the more people you talk to, the more connected you are. And that's going to help you grow. They connect you to other people and the sky is the limit. So be social on social media is ultimately it. Any questions?
We have time for a couple questions.
Any questions?
I want to know how long did it take you to get where you are on your
How long to take till I got to where I was on social? It was very slow moving until I got into video creation. I'd say like I was literally at 10,000 followers, I think at the end of 2020. Or no, 2021. And then all of a sudden everything just blew up. And on TikTok, I gained 30,000 followers in 1 week with starting from one video. And it was birria ramen. And yes, I know I said it very wrong. I do not have the accent at all. And yes, I know I'm very white. They let me know that every single time. Never been good at that. But yeah, and then some super mega viral. I gained, I think, over 100,000 followers since January of last year.
That's amazing. I know. I know. Oh, wait, Preston, you're not off the hook yet.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
oh, okay.
So Ryan, well, from online says, oh, Chelsey.
All right.
Yeah.
He's so funny.
Go ahead. Your favorite you got the opportunity to eat live drink has been.
Wait, the what?
Your favorite thing you've had to eat or drink.
Ooh.
I know.
So my favorite thing I've ate or drank since I started this journey. Oh my gosh. Ooh. Honestly, I love Christopher Wrigley's foie gras at Christopher's at Wrigley Mansion. It is, oh, it just melts in your mouth like butter. I don't know what it is. It's like magic meat butter, but it's really good.
And that place is a hidden gem.
And a hidden gem.
Yeah, it's a hidden gem.
The naysayers or any of the negativity. I know you said it brings you more likes, more content, more activity, but how do you like decompartmentalize?
So that's a really good one. It says how to handle like the naysayers and decompartmentalize. I think the biggest thing is for mental health is kind of like disconnecting a lot and being like, you know, this person doesn't define me. I don't know this person. I'm never going to meet them. But a great thing and a tip for everybody here, there are filters for keywords or really negative things. So somebody is writing like, I'm sure all the time I get, you're overweight. I'm like, yes, thank you. I know. I'm also pregnant, but thank you. And they will tell you those things. So you can always filter those words out so you don't have to see it. They think the comment's still there, but you don't have to see it. So it's a great mental health practice. And since I started that, it literally was like, okay, like things are a lot better. You're still going to get some, you're going to have people say things, but I always sit there and I'm like, okay, do I have to engage with this person? No, I'm like, just delete and move on. That's the hardest, right?
Yeah, for sure. With my 400 followers.
No worries. No worries.
Okay, two from online. Michelle L. Says you rock, Chelsey, very inspiring. And then a question from Ryan. What's your most viral video? So if you can
It's really sad to say, but my most viral video is the Sedona McDonald's. I threw a drone in the air and somebody goes, why is there a drone footage of a McDonald's? And they're like, this is so wrong in America. And I was like, welcome to America. Huh? To the video? Yeah, I'll share it. I'll share it on social media. You guys can find that thing crew. The weird comments were very weird. People are like, that's not the only blue McDonald's in the world. And I was like, but it's like, it's turquoise, it's not blue. And I was like, I just wrote what the news article said. And it's just great discussion. So it's like, sometimes people purposely say things wrong to start discussion. I don't always try, but it happens. Like I learned that the Tyrannosaurus is called Tyrannosaurus and not Tyrannosaurus. Yes, I was very humbled by that experience.
Okay, thanks so much, Chelsey. Give it up for Chelsey.
Helping.
And like I said, we will have a few minutes at
follow
the
up
end
social
for
media
quick
person.
questions. So up next, how does Freddie do it? Let's do a pulse check.
Yeah.
Everybody needs more beer.
Pulse check. Pulse check. Pulse
Okay,
check.
beer? Okay. Well, oh yeah, let's do it.
Drink for me.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers. Beer. Y'all can't see, but there's beer everywhere.
Always thinking about social.
Yeah.
Okay. So up next we have Jacque Powers. I was on a panel a long time ago with Jacque Powers. I'm so excited to have you on the panel today. She is born and raised in Phoenix, one of the few.
Yay.
The rare breed.
Various positions throughout her 25 years in business. Office personnel, merchandiser, driver, field sales rep, craft specialty rep, resort specialist, regional sales manager, on and off premise key account manager, to her position today, Western Region Cam's Liquor Channel. She loves all beer and the industry. Let's give it up for Jacque.
Thank you, Megan. So I'm Jacque, and as Megan said, we got to do a panel for inclusivity in the beer industry in front of the craft beer community. I had a whole thing planned out that I've been practicing for a week because I'm super like structural, like I need to know the right words to say, I need to get my message across. I think way faster than I can speak, so I'll start talking really fast because that's where my brain goes. But after listening to these three start it and listening to Megan, it just kind of brought me back into why we're here and to what the meaning of this is. And so I will refer to my notes just to make sure there's a few topics that I do say on it. But I'm very passionate about the beer business because when I started 25 years ago, I started, let's all do the math. I was 12, child labor laws didn't exist. I'm clearly not 40. So I started as a part-time job while I was going to college. You know, I was the same, and I had my career planned out. I was going to Grand Canyon University. I was going to be a biologist. Like that was what my heart was in. And I never really had a chance to experience the social life. And so when I started working in the beer business, it got really exciting. And before you knew it, I had done a couple years in college. I was also merchandising. And I saw some people delivering beer. And I was like, well, I'm merchandising. Like you're delivering beer, the same job, but you just drive this truck. And way back in the 90s, I said, I'm making $8.25 an hour. Woo! And they were making $12.25 an hour. I go, so for $4 more, I just have to drive this truck. Well, duh, I'm an opportunist, right? So I got my CDL when I was 20 years old. And so I started delivering beer. It was very impactful because there wasn't other female drivers. You know, I was the only one. But the best part that I can say about that time frame is I never changed who I was. I always had mascara on. I always had my nails painted. I was always a girl. Like there wasn't a part of me that was like, I have to be a man to do this job. I just always wanted to be Jackie. And so whether it was I was too much, because there were definitely times I was too much. There was times when I was 22 and very hot-headed, because we all are when we're 22. But I really just wanted to embrace like who I was and what I created. I would say the biggest disadvantage that I had was that I didn't want to be recognized for being a female. I wanted to be recognized for being a driver. I wanted to be the best driver there was. And I didn't want someone to be like, oh, she's the best girl driver. Well, no shit, assholes. I'm the only girl driver. Like, there was just so many things that I thought that I wanted to like create and like have this like legacy of who I was. And, you know, it was never about like being that person. It was like, I wanted people to know my name. I wanted to be like, Jackie's my driver, like not the girl or not that one, like Jackie's my driver and I love her and she's the best driver I've ever had. So going into my career, I guess I kind of kept that stigma around myself, was that I was Jackie and there wasn't anything that was going to change that. So bless Crescent Crown's heart, because they gave me a lot of chances. They gave me a lot of chances to really be who I am today. And there was definitely times where I didn't say the right thing, or maybe they didn't say the right thing. And I really thought that that was the end of my career, because there's a lot of pressure to be who they want you to be and to say who they wanted you to be. And so let's keep moving on. So what they gave me the opportunity to do was to grow. And I couldn't do that in another industry with not having a college degree and with not knowing the direction that I wanted. Sometimes you go to college and you realize that's not what you want. I started out like being a driver. I didn't know that that's what I want to do the rest of my life. So they gave me a chance going to sales. And so I did a couple of spouts sales driving. In 2015, I became a craft beer rep. What was amazing about that was I liked beer. And Oscar Blues Dale's Pale, which ironically is where I work now, was one of the first pale ales that I absolutely loved. Breckenridge Vanilla Porter. I'm going to say some beers that maybe no one's heard of anymore. Flying Dog. I don't know, are they still around? There's definitely some beers that like appealed to me. And I was like, what is this craft beer movement? And if we go back a few more years, it's Blue Moon. Blue Moon was amazing. And then I had an Avery Wright Rascal and I was like, what is this? Like everything just kept getting better. And so when I went to the craft team, I wasn't educated. I didn't have a cicerone, to what they were saying about getting in the industry. You might not know what you're getting into. And I didn't know what I was getting into, but I had a passion. And what I had a passion for was Jackie. Like I had a passion for selling myself. And I was like, hey, you know what? You may know more about an IPA than I do. And ask me what a hop it is. I don't know what hop it is. And I'm going to be that person that's going to say, do you want to Google it together? Because I don't know. Like, I don't know where it came from. And I'm sorry. But hey, it's really good. And guess what? I got a credit card and I can buy you one. So there's a lot of advantages to it, because I learned with like no boundaries, because I was able to learn like what the industry is about. So my topic is innovation. So we're going to get there. So innovation. So why that's important is because innovation is what keeps us here today. I was a Miller Lite drinker from the very beginning. I grew up, here in Phoenix in the 80s, and everything about that generation was loyalty, right? So we drank what our parents drank. If your dad had a Chevy, you drove a Chevy. If they had a job for 40 years, you were going to stay at that company for 40 years. That the baby boomer generation was what we aspired to be. And then as the millennials started getting into the drinking and, growing of age to have opinions in the internet, you started questioning things. But the questioning things was still kind of iffy, because we still wanted to be loyal to what we were, but then we wanted to also have new experiences. So innovation was very vital to the craft beer industry. If there weren't breweries that were edgy enough to say like, hey, Oscar Blues, we're going to put beer in a can, because guess what? We want to go outside and we also want to use this as a pipe bomb or whatever you call the little thing on it for. But they had ideas, like, right? They innovated like what the can of craft beer was. Nobody wanted a vanilla porter until you had a Breckenridge. Like that wasn't a thing, but then you had it, and now every brewery has a porter because it is a thing now. So as everything started evolving into like what the craft beer industry is, then comes Generation Z, who they are raised on social media and they want things now and they want change and they want exciting. And guess what we got? We have White Claw, we have Ranch Waters, we have RTDs, you know, we have kombucha. We have all these things that you never thought the beer category would have, because Miller Lite, Bud Light, Coors Light, Corona, like they were the staples. Heineken, they've been doing it right for years. And so you thought that you had to stay like in that principle of what was your parents' beer and what your parents were doing, but that's not who we are today. The other thing that we want is we want transparency, right? We want to know what's going in our beer. We want to know that it has real fruit. We want to know that what the brewery's doing is right. We want to know that they care about a woman that's having a baby. There's so many other factors that are behind this beer that we want to know. And so as that Generation Z has come onto the scene, innovations had to take 100% mile fast track to like, what do we want? So Megan is a great story for the brewing industry. You know, first female-owned brewery in Arizona. That doesn't mean that there weren't, yes, it doesn't mean that there aren't women in the brewing industry. So, you know, there always is that, right? Like, you weren't the first person that said, hey, I want to brew beer. But the fact that she created a business, and she created a business around women and what they wanted at a brewery. They wanted a green grass. They wanted yellow chairs. They wanted pretty paintings on the wall. Like there was things that she incorporated into her business that were innovative. And it wasn't about, she makes amazing beer, but it wasn't always about the 100% best beer to what everybody wants. It was about the experience, because that's the other part of innovation is you have to do marketing. You have to appeal to the people that are sitting into your audience. So Chelsey here understands that 100%. My favorite tagline is good for you, not for me, because what's good for you may not be for me, but it's going to be good for a lot of people. And so we have to remember that, because innovation is where everything is. The world changes, we change. I do drink Miller Lite still, but as innovations changed, hazy IPAs are probably my favorite second beer. There's a category out there that I don't even know that I like. I drink all kinds of beer, but I'm waiting for the next thing to make me excited about it. And it could be something that's marketed right. It could be something that's brewed right. It could be a story that I love. And that's the great part of innovation, is it doesn't have to be everything that you want it to be. My current job now, and so what I want to pass along to everybody is that I got an amazing job. Our parent company is Monster Energy, who Monster Energy is the leader in innovation. The things I've learned in 5 months from Monster is tremendous. They launched a beer called the Beast Unleashed. It's an F&B and it's pretty edgy. There's a lot of things behind it. Is it a beer? Is it not? We won't go there. But what they do well is they understand their consumer, and they take the time to understand who they're marketing towards. But their tagline that I want you guys to remember is we're not for everyone, but we're for anyone. And I took what they said as Jacque. Like, I am not for everyone. I am not going to make everyone happy, and everyone's not going to like me, but anyone can. And I will talk to anyone. I will tell thousands of stories about how hard it was to deliver beer, the things I went through, the craft beer industry, how many, fun events I did, how many awesome brewers I had an experience with learning, and to where I'm at today. I cover the entire Western region for the Liquor Channel, and it's really exciting. And I'm just really happy to be here, and I love the industry, and I just thank you all for the opportunity.
Yay. Oh, that was so great. Let's give it up for Jacque. Okay. Everybody doing good, has beer. We'll have questions at the end for Jacque. So keep your questions
Took too long, sorry.
Keep your questions close. I'm gonna keep going here. So we have our next panelist.
Oh, sorry.
Kelsey Duque, who is the new Kelsey McClaskey. That's exciting. Congratulations. By the way. Kelsey is the owner of Bottleshop 48, a craft beer and wine bar located in Tempe. She previously worked in many industries from marketing to childcare, education to tourism, until finally getting her dream opportunity to own a tap room in 2020. Today, her focus is on building her business by building community. Let's give it up for Kelsey.
Hi guys. Okay, so yeah, I'm Kelsey, owner of Bottleshop 48 down in Tempe. We're a craft beer and wine bar, a little small neighborhood community bar. So background about me, I got into craft. I've been into craft for like a decade now, but most of that time was just as an enthusiast. I love drinking craft. It started in college. My friends and I had this weekly tradition of trying a new beer every single week, right? And big domestic brands can only get you so far before you're kind of forced to get into the craft world. And I had been just obsessed with it ever since. I had worked in a lot of industries, most of my time was in the corporate world, and similar to Ashley's experience, was terrible and I hated it. And then I, in 2020, got an opportunity to take over Bottleshop 48 from the previous owner, which was a long story of essentially just right place, right time, and being dumb enough to start a business venture in 2020, which is something Megan can also identify with. Insane time to do that, but here we are today, and it's been an incredible journey. Most recently, before Bottleshop 48, I was a preschool teacher here in Arizona, which seems completely unrelated, but I feel like drunk adults and 4-year-olds have a lot of common ground, right? So a lot of transferable skills in that. And yeah, in 2020, my partner and I started, taking over Bottleshop 48, which was a crazy thing to do. And that's kind of one of the lessons that I want to impart to everybody. I will be perfectly honest and say that a lot of this was good timing and was luck. But a big part of it is realizing that opportunity looks really shitty sometimes, right? And it's not always like just glittery and shiny and everything falls into place. We had to take a really big risk, not knowing when our doors could even be open. I mean, we were transferring when bars were still completely shut down. But we felt like there was something special there. And I really appreciated the community that I experienced as a drinker. And I felt like I could help foster and grow as an owner. And I saw so much potential there. And we've been working constantly ever since to really build this community around just a neighborhood bar, essentially. It took me the better part of a decade from being passionate about craft to getting into craft. And Ashley touched on this a little bit earlier, but a huge part of that was imposter syndrome. And I really want to get back to this because I feel like, especially as women, this is something that affects us deeply, right? I hear this so often with a lot of my female friendships and coworkers. And for those of you who aren't super familiar with the concept, it's that like voice in the back of your head that tells you that everybody else has the answers and they've got it all figured out. And you alone are the only one that doesn't know what they're doing. And eventually they're going to figure you out, right? You're just faking it. You're a fraud. How many people in the audience have felt that at some point, right? It's fucking everybody, right? It's like such a universal experience. I was passionate about craft for so long, but I was terrified that I didn't have a place in this industry. Because to be perfectly honest, the modern beer world was not made for women. Historically, beer was a woman's job. That's important to know. Yes, it was. But the modern industry was built for men. And I struggled with figuring out how I could carve out a spot for myself in an industry that wasn't built for me. And then I just took the leap and decided to stop listening to that shitty voice in the back of my head. I cannot encourage you more to stop listening to that voice. So many opportunities I could have had, so many relationships I could have built, so many experiences. that I missed out on because I was busy giving that voice any weight or any, validity. And it just isn't true. It's so full of shit. I am here on the other side of things telling you, as a successful business owner, I don't fucking know what I'm doing half the time anyway. I like truly. And even people that really felt like they had it figured out, just life will throw you curveballs like a global pandemic and a rapidly changing economy. And then the rule book changes and you have to figure things out all over again. It is not just me. I know all across the board. We are all figuring it out as we go along. And so will you. If you have any inkling of getting into this industry, whether it is through social media or through CANarchy or through brewing or through distribution or sales, whatever it is, you'll figure it out along the way because we all have to anyway. The biggest lesson that I learned is that what matters way more than your proficiency before you even get started is people. When we were taking over Bottleshop 48, because I had worked in so many other industries, I saw a lot of business models, some better than others, most of which were very focused on profits. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that money doesn't matter, because obviously it does. But we were very intentional, not knowing what money was going to look like coming in, that we were going to focus on people. Bottleshop had a small group of regulars that I really knew and respected. And I knew that if we took care of our community would take care of us. If we took care of our staff would take care of us. We took care of our neighbors, our regulars, our customers, our peers and colleagues in the industry. They would take care of us. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that that philosophy, this people first philosophy, is the only reason our doors are open today. It was incredibly difficult to make it through, but we had people band together and support us in a way that leaves me emotional to this day. And I see the community that has been built around our bar, and it's one of the things I'm most proud of. Beer in and of itself is a social product, right? How many times in our life do we celebrate, a birthday, a wedding, an anniversary, a new job over drinks with friends? We explore new romantic interests over a beer with a new person. We commiserate through life's challenges with the drink. Alcohol sales through COVID went way the fuck up because it's just, we're going to do what we can to get by. Beer is inherently social and it's a connector of people, and that bleeds over into this industry more than any other industry that I have been in, which is quite a few over the years, because I can't seem to make up my fucking mind. This is a relationship industry. So know that if there's any facet of this industry you want to get into, focus on people, focus on building genuine, authentic connections, nurturing those relationships, and it will come back to you tenfold. I am so grateful for the community that I have been able to build and that I have been invited into and accepted into based on not only the work that I'm doing, but the work that so many women before me have put in, the level of education and assistance that was just given to me, because that is what this industry is about. It's a truly beautiful thing. I have also, on the flip side, seen other sales reps or taproom owners damage and neglect their relationships, whether it is for profit or for pride or whatever reason. And I've seen them struggle through kind of abandoning those principles. More than anything, this is a relationship business. And if you put people first, people will take care of you back. That is the biggest piece of advice that I can give anybody. This is a very welcoming industry, even though it may not always have been to people who look like us. Things have changed significantly and there's still work to go, but this is a beautiful place to be. Even if it's not professionally, you have Girls Planked Out and Beer Babes. You have communities that are being built around making sure that women feel like they have a place in craft, even if it's just enjoying it casually and drinking with others. So I highly encourage you to find your people, latch onto them, build those relationships, This industry is better with more women in it. So if you have any inclination of being here, there's a place for you, and I hope to see you here soon.
Let's give it up one more time. Okay, last but not least, we have Sarah Doka. Sarah is a sales professional with almost 10 years of experience working directly in the beverage segment. She grew a love for all things craft at Brewing, which led her to her next role at Firestone Walker Brewing. She helped launch 805 in Arizona, New Mexico, and Nevada, and was the first female to win the brewery's highly coveted Lions Pride Award. Specializing in creating relationships, Sarah now uses her experience navigating the Anheuser Busch on-premise sales for Hensley Beverage Company. Let's give it up for Sarah.
Thank you. I am for the opportunity to come together, but I am Sarah Doka. My craft beer journey started 15 years ago when I thought I was really putting one over to my parents by signing up for a craft beer class in college where we got to taste on Thursdays at 10:30 a.m. So my roommates and I really want to say that I was on the trend and knowing that this was going to blow up that long ago, but no, we really thought it was cool that we could get credit for catching like a little buzz and getting college courses for it. So shout out to Wally Randy at NAU, because I know so many of us have taken that course. Woo, yeah. So truthfully, that's the first time I tried anything that wasn't Bud Light. And I was like, this is awesome. Became a fan instantly in that class. My career path took me more to kind of fast casual dining experiences after that. I was at Sweet Tomatoes and then Chipotle for a long time, but was always a craft beer fan and tried my hardest to, sample whatever the weird, funky thing that was on tap was, and just really was a fan until one day I was back down in Tucson, born and raised Tucson native, and I was having a bad day. Like I knew my end in the restaurant business, managing college kids for $8 an hour. Like I knew that was not my path, and I knew that I just wanted to do something that made me happy every day. And like a manifestation, Rhonda, who was formerly with Fat Tire, New Belgium at the time, Rhonda walked into my Chipotle and was such a breath of fresh air. She was also with Jason, who was formerly with Finley in Tucson, now with Tap and Bottle. But they walked into my Chipotle and got lunch and struck up a beer conversation with me that changed my life. They were fun, they were enthusiastic, and they talked to me about beer. And I was like, wow, like who are these people? By the end of it, I had bought them lunch, and I literally just asked them, what do you do? And they told me they were beer reps. And I was like, bah, like, what do you mean? Like, this is crazy. This sounds so much better than serving up burrito bowls right now. And not saying everyone should follow this path, but I literally put my notice in the next day because I knew, just to your point, I knew that these were my people. They were fun. They were they were amazing. They brought me in swag, which I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. And I knew that those were my people. And so I knew I had to get out. So I put my notice in, and by chance, Barrio Brewing had a part-time brand ambassador role, which I had no idea what that even was. And I applied and I got it, and I was so grateful. And so from that point on, there was one specific theme that really carried me even to this day in my beer industry, and it's progress over perfection. I knew how to do the restaurant thing. I knew how to do that. I didn't know how to do anything but drink craft beer. And so making this change, as so many of us have done, I knew that it was going to be day by day, and not fretting the mistakes, not fretting the small, bumps in the road. And so from there, I started chipping away at craft beer. I used my distributor network, and I asked them as many questions as they would allow me. And I really became engulfed in the family that was Arizona craft beer, almost 10 years ago. And it was wonderful. Barrio was wonderful. They let me supplement my paycheck managing the brew house some days because, you know, we really didn't know what the brand ambassador role was going to be. So fast forward 2 years and I was covering the whole state and I loved it. I mean, I would do a promo for anything. You bought a 6-pack. I'm like, hey, trivia night, let's go. Let's go. I'll be there. I've got swag. I'll be there for 4 hours. Like the return on investment was not always there, right? Like for sure. But I learned and I grew my beer community and I grew my beer family. And from then on, I knew the sky was the limit. And I knew my ultimate goal was to be a brand manager. And I knew that. I knew that's where I was meant to be. And I knew that was the goal. So the next step after Barrio, I went to Firestone Walker because I knew I wanted to work with some like national like distribution and stuff. And then 805 happened. And that was the best right place, right time crash course in craft beer I could have ever been given. Just being thrown into the off-premise sales and learning what a reset was. Progress over perfection. I messed up a few times. I misquoted an ad. I sold in something that wasn't actually for your chain. I'm sorry. Like, but you know, at the end of the day, I had my beer community to really fall back on and really laugh at it at the end of the day and grow from it. And I loved every minute of it. And so I am still an obsessive Firestone Walker fan. I love them. And I knew the only way I would ever leave that company was to be a craft brand manager at Hensley for all the Arizona brands I've known to love and grow. And that opportunity came. And I was beyond excited, beyond grateful. And you want to talk about expanding your beer community. The day I signed on at Hensley, my beer community went from huge and robust to like insane because you never think about when you buy that 6-pack at a grocery store, what it actually took to get there and what it actually took to look the way it looks and taste the way it looks. The appreciation, I mean, I buy my beer at a grocery store because like it's so hard, right? So I don't know. It's been a cool journey. And to think that, you know, almost 10 years ago at a Chipotle, and then fast forward to this, like it's beyond belief. But there's one thing I can leave you with. It's a progress over progression. I had no clue what I was doing when I jumped over here, but my beer community and not being afraid to ask questions and not being afraid to build the connections that I've made and not being afraid to fail. I have failed so much. I mean, like I had a dunk tank at a beer event. I mean, I spent so much money, but like the memories and like just the friends I've made and the culture we've been able to bring together is so cool. And so not even just the beer industry, but like anything you do, everybody had such a similar thing in that we started because we had a passion or we had like a want or we had a desire. And it wasn't always, you know, walking through daisies or anything like that. Like it sucked at some points, but it's all so much worth it because the work, you can taste it, you can feel it, you can breathe it here today. So progress over perfection and craft beer forever, man. It's strong and it's here and we got to keep going for it. So thanks, guys.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Craft beer forever, for sure. Let's give it up for Sarah. Yes. Yay. Okay, our panelists, they are kick ass. I'm not Okay, we do have about 10 minutes. I want to offer what I promised, some time for questions. So let's start. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Natalie. I just moved here in June from the Midwest. So it's been really exciting to explore the Arizona beer community, and shout out to Girls Pine Out for being so wonderful. I really want to ask, all of you are currently here in 2023. Where do you see Arizona beer going within the next 5 to 7 years?
Great. The question is from Natalie. So what is where is the beer community going? It's 2023, but where do you see the beer community going?
Not just for beer, but for women.
For women in beer. That's a great question. Okay, so for women in beer, where do you see women in beer going past this year? Who wants to start? Or just beer, all the things. Don't,
I got it.
not everybody
Everybody jump.
volunteer.
Sorry to cut you all off. Okay, so I am also not a Arizona native. I'm originally from Southern California. Shout out. We should keep that quiet here. However, Southern California, as a lot of craft beer drinkers will know, it's just like a mecca when it comes to craft beer. And having grown up there and drinking craft for a long time, I can tell you that to me, this feels like early California craft beer world, where we've seen craft come in Arizona, even in just the past 5 years, honestly, has been so impressive. And Arizona is winning awards on the national stage right now for its beer and is beating out, all of these incredible breweries from other more established beer industries. I'm very excited for where craft is going to go in Arizona. There's a lot of potential here, and we're seeing it uptake when it comes to specifically women in beer. Again, it feels like we are all of the right signs are there. Essentially, we have so many good women in beer organizations, from the drinking side all the way to like Pink Boots is like Ashley mentioned, a women in beer organization. There's a strong community of women in beer right now. It's only getting stronger. I'm seeing more and more interest from women wanting to come into this industry, which is a fantastic sign. So all good things ahead, honestly. I think that we're going to really see some growth in the next 5 years.
I'm just gonna comment on, so I travel a lot, I cover a lot of states, and so I go to a lot of local breweries. And I know this sounds like maybe tedious, but what I feel like Arizona represents is there's a lot of home. Like you feel very homey when you go to breweries. And I definitely think that's a woman's influence. I was in Texas, I spent a lot of time in Texas with a lot of my chains. And they're all like, dude, like there's like Browns and cowboy hats, and it's just there's never been a brewery that I've walked into that I just felt like happy at. And I definitely feel like Arizona's been one of the quickest to be like, hey, we want it to be an extended patio from our home because we do a lot of things outdoors here. And so I think that the women's culture has brought that into our breweries. And so I could name like 10 breweries just off the top of my head that make women feel welcome at their breweries. And as much time as I spend in other states, I can maybe name one. And so I think that that's where we're going for Arizona, is that there's a lot of women that put passion, whether it's the wife of someone that owns a brewery, she's putting her passion into that brewery. And when you look at those cans, everyone knows Wren House, but their graphics are one of the best. And if they check behind it, us the same way, like Leah's awesome, but Michaela, her art is amazing. So it's a lot of women that go behind all that. And we see that, and I see that when I travel to other markets. So I think Arizona is a little bit ahead. So I just think it's going to get better in the next 5 years. Want to go?
I was gonna say one thing about the labels. I've done this a lot, just not working at Wren House, but graphic design field there are a lot of men in it. And the design, so I switched from an art major to a graphic design thing. And I remember one of my first projects, I did a huge signature at the bottom, and my design teacher told me, no, you don't want anyone to know like who you are. Like your design should stand for itself. Like you're not like an artist. So I remember just from that, and then I got way into infographics, and I felt like I always had more of a like not a masculine look, but more of like bold colors. And one of my favorite cans is Lady Banks, and it's roses and pretty and pink, the pink beer. But then another one of my friends who just started drinking beer, she was like, oh, I bought this beer because it has a cactus on it. I was like, oh, and like the cute labels, like I don't really go into making it cute and girly, but I do think that there's like an avenue for that.
For sure.
Yeah, making it pretty beer, I can go.
Yeah.
I think just the inspiration from women like this in the industry is definitely going to propel all of us forward in the beer community for sure. Yeah.
So we commented on imposter syndrome and how do you feel you've gotten over that and ensuring you have a seat at the table?
So the question is, how have you gotten over imposter syndrome and felt like you have a seat at the table? Yeah. I think for me, it was just educating myself, finding as much knowledge as I possibly could. But also, I think to kind of go to the point that's been made as well, is surrounding yourself with good people. I wouldn't be where I am today if I hadn't been on a team of amazing people that kind of helped like see when the imposter syndrome was coming in and just like smack it down and be like, no, you do belong here. So I think, yeah, surrounding yourself with good people, but also whenever that doubt comes into your brain, kind of figuring out, well, where does doubt come from? Like, is that doubt because I'm afraid that someone's going to think that I don't belong here because I don't know the answer to a question? And then also just seeing other people asking questions, because I guarantee that there are a million men in the industry also asking questions, but they don't inherently just like know how to revere. So seeing other people going through the same thing that I was going through and really kind of latching onto that and making that part of my inner dialogue when I did have a question and was afraid to ask it. What was the second part of the question? I'm sorry.
Ensuring you have a seat at the table.
Oh, oh man, just give yourself one. Like grab a chair and pull it over. I'm pretty sure that the marketing department at Arizona Wilderness doesn't always love me because I have a lot to say about their job as well as my own. Yeah, no, just like speak up. Just speak up and say something. And that goes for too when something doesn't feel right. Be okay with sitting there and saying like this doesn't feel right. Because if it doesn't feel right to you, it probably doesn't feel right to someone else. Just yeah, grab a chair. Make it happen.
Just to add on to that, I think something that was really important for me was accepting that it wasn't a matter of getting rid of this completely. I feel like it will always at least a little bit be there, right? To be perfectly honest with you, when I got the email inviting me to speak on this panel here today, my first response as a draft was turning it down because I didn't feel like I had any place to speak here. And it's something that's kind of always there. One of the things, and maybe this is just because I can be a petty bitch sometimes, but I have seen so much unearned confidence for men in the military. I just, if I could just steal an ounce of it, just an ounce of it, I could take over the world. So sometimes it's literally just reminding myself of some of the dumb shit that I see coming from other people and being like, no, I can do better than that. I should be here.
Actually, I will add on, honestly, to add on to that, never losing yourself too. Like, honestly, it's you might be put up against a wall, but like knowing that you are strong and true and what you're going for and what your goal is and what you're trying to tackle, like they're going to bark because they're threatened of you. And that's like the best motivation you could ever freaking have. Surrounding yourself and knowing that like you're going towards an ultimate goal, regardless of the naysayers and the crappy people. So yeah, for sure.
Okay, we have time for one more question. Okay, we're gonna go here. Question 4, I'm looking at the back and going to hand off the not in and I will give men a little bit of credit that I think there are members of men in the industry and other industries who want to be an effective woman and want to be part of the solution, but they're not moms. And for lack of a better term, they are idiots in this realm. And they don't know how to be part of the solution. So it's like ask for something like you're asking for work-life balance as a mom, really just as a woman, as a life outside of it. What were specific things that you were asking for in your realm as a mom? And when men find it to be happy to take that position of the self-care plan, you actually want to take care of yourself. If they were going to be okay, Love that.
Frenchies.
So we have a question about being
A
mom.
little bit,
And
yeah.
we have a few moms and moms to be, on this panel. So first question, okay, I remember the second question. First question.
First question is basically like, what were you asking for? If it has to get you can to make your work life as a mom.
Yeah.
Doable.
Yeah.
Question, if you are gonna get that from stuff in and look at free, how do you take care of yourself?
Yeah. So how did you ask for your role? And so if you're a mom, obviously now you have other responsibilities outside of your job and yourself. And so how did you ask for that? How did you approach that new role? And how did you take care of yourself and create that, I hate the word balance, but we will say care. How did you create that balance for yourself and self-care?
So specifically, one of the things that I did ask for when I got pregnant and knew that I wanted to come back to the beer industry, I actually didn't think it was possible. There's not a lot of brewers who are moms, like in production. So I had actually started researching, going back into school to be a speech pathologist, because that seemed like an okay thing. And when I started kind of just talking about that, letting my coworkers know that once I had my baby, I was probably going to leave the industry. They were really willing to kind of figure out how to make it work and sat down with me to kind of figure out how that looks logistically, because it is a challenge. And so one of the things I ended up specifically asking for was shifting from a 5-day schedule to a 4-day schedule, so working 4 10s, and then 2 of those days being working from home. My salary isn't as high as it was in the marketing industry, so it wasn't as feasible to send my kids to daycare, 5 days a week. And I also didn't want to do that. And they were really willing to work with me on that. So I mean, there were a lot of times where I was on conference calls. My days where I had meetings were work from home, and I was literally on a conference call changing a diaper and talking at the same time. And I think I was really lucky that honestly I didn't really have anybody push back on that. I think everyone was really welcoming. We also have since had a lot of people on our team who are new fathers. And I think that kind of also opened up the door for them.
Understood.
Also expressed that it's difficult to be a new father as well as a new mother. And so it just kind of changed the dynamic a little bit, but it is still hard finding that balance and figuring out that self-care. I'll be perfectly honest, I'm leaving Arizona. I'm moving to Chicago to be closer to family. We're switching spots. Because yeah, I think having family around is really important, and I don't have it here. And as much as my work was able to give me the freedom to leave when I had to pick up my kid from daycare because she's sick, it's just too hard without family. So I think having a community is really, really, really important. Yeah, I guess that.
That's great.
Great.
I would say time. Asking for time, I'd say like with Wren House, the labels are always, I mean, well, not just Wren House, but like graphic design, everything's a little bit last minute and tight deadline. So we have a spreadsheet now, and it's like, has all the information. So like, I'm not asking last minute, I need a barcode or what's the ABV or something like that. So getting that nailed down in advance has been a huge help. So yeah.
Great.
My only comment was gonna be that, if the company that you're at doesn't value your time, or if you are a mom, find a new company. If you learn anything from Generation Z, is you don't have to settle. And, sometimes you don't realize that there are better opportunities out there. And the company that I work for, they are so passionate about your personal time and your life and that work-life balance. And I didn't know how bad it was until I went to this job. And, don't be afraid to look at that opportunity, because that is a very big thing. And don't always think you have to settle. There are companies and people out there that do care about that more. So don't feel like you have to settle for it.
So one last time, everybody, let's give it up for our amazing team. This was our first panel that we've done at Greenwood about having a career, getting your career in beer and growing in this business. And I couldn't have thought of 6 more better women to have on this panel. So thank you so much. You really crushed it. I want to give a little shout out. We do have a Pink Boots beer release today. We brewed a beer on International Women's Day on March 8th, and it is called Daisy. Somebody brought up Daisy tonight. So Daisy is her name, and it's a cold IPA if you're drinking it. And a portion of these this beer will go back to Pink Boots Society.
Delicious.
Love that organization. If you're not familiar with it, come talk to us. We would love to get you connected. So lastly, I'm Megan Greenwood, the owner of Greenwood Brewing. One reason why I got into this industry is because I wasn't really feeling seen in the craft beer world. I wasn't feeling like there was a product being marketed to me as a consumer. And I hope that all of you tonight are feeling welcome here because we welcome you. So cheers to everybody.
Thank you, Megan.
Social, of course, social, everybody.